slow clap?
We need 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
That's 10.
I can tell you're a musician, Christian. Hello, we're here at the Ep04 Studios in Racine, and I have with me Christian Seibert. Did I say that right?
Yeah, good job.
Good, awesome. So, Christian, we're in a whole new world nowadays, and what I was thinking about was the kind of leaders and the leadership that we need to start seeing as creatives. I feel like you and I kind of been doing this for a little bit, and I feel now like we have a little bit of responsibility. But you have any leadership, maybe people that you see as good leaders, or leadership advice to who people should look to and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because most people associate leadership with a title or a role, and I don't think that's necessarily it. I think that especially in the creative world, the leaders are the ones kind of taking the mold and busting out the edges a little bit and saying, I'm going to try this and I'm going to try that. But they're also paving the way for people after them. You know, I always think about now, like I'm getting older, you know, and I think about that. I'm like, well, I need to look for and be attentive to creatives that are doing things that are younger than me, because they're going to be the future. You know, at some point, I'm going to be the old guy, you know what I mean? Like, and not be able to pave the way for something new. But, you know, and that I guess that's a really tough balance right now, especially with social media, because, you know, everybody's trying to make it somewhere, no matter what their age is, no matter what they're doing, and it's very inward focused.
Right.
And it's tough because there's always this like motivation of, they might seem like they're helping by like giving out, you know, or selling their ebook on shooting this way, or saying like, this is how I do what I do. But I think leaders in our world are the ones that are finding younger people that are trying to get into things and saying, this is what I did that didn't work, and here's how you can enable yourself to do something different and unique. Right. So it's that tough balance, especially when you're trying to make money as a creative, and you're bringing in younger guys, and you have to trust them to do something, like to let them run. You know what I mean? Like, here's what the client wants, but I'm going to let you put your own input and creativity into it.
Yeah, and I feel like for me, good leaders have always brought me back to thinking of why I'm doing what I'm doing. Yeah, absolutely. Like bringing back the value of what I'm giving to someone. Like we were talking with, I was talking with Augustine, and remembering, like, you know, he was talking about, okay, well, I have this wedding to shoot and edit, and it almost becomes like, okay, well, now people get to see what I did, and like almost like you're creating your own, becoming your own celebrity in your brain. Like, okay, yeah, people are gonna see it and they're gonna like it. But we forget, okay, well, you're shooting this wedding because this means a lot. This is gonna mean a lot to them. Yeah. And he said it really good. Like, oh, you know, their kids will one day see it, and their grandkids will probably someday see it, and that just like creates a whole history of your family there. Right. And I feel like a lot of people forget that. Like, we're just like, well, we're going to provide something for somebody, and they're going to see how cool we are, and then we're going to get more likes, and we're going to get more business and all that, and we kind of forget the value of what we're actually providing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think depending on like what avenue of creative or industry you're in, a good leader would be somebody in that industry that can kind of guide you along. You know, like our worlds are a little different in what we do as far as, you know, the type of clients that we service, but I think it's the same. Like when you go back to why you're doing it, you know, for me and Isley, we're focused on marketing. We found that like our passion actually is to help people grow their businesses. So that for me, it's taking like young creatives that are really creative and helping them understand, like, this is how you can service them and still be creative. You know what I mean? And that, I think that's huge. And then I've had other people before me do the same thing. And I still do. There's still a lot of people that I look up to in those worlds that are leading the way. You know, they're guiding us down a path.
Yeah. What I've seen a lot is a lot of sacrifice I'm sure they're worth it at the end, but it's hard to see the end right now.
Yeah, like when you're in the middle of it, yeah, that's really hard. I don't necessarily think everybody's cut out to do like the freelance or their own company or whatever.
Right.
Because I mean, I know sometimes I'm like, I mean, I would kill for a 9-to-5 that I get a salary, but we've been there together, you know, like, and it just, I think when you're wired to be creative and to kind of live outside the boundaries a little bit, you can't survive in that world. So you do make these sacrifices, but I think the fulfillment is more on the other side. You know, when you're saying like, this is my work that I did for somebody and it achieved whatever goal they had, and I did it in my way, and rather than having somebody above me tell me this is how it needs to be. But again, I think if you had the right leaders in those situations, it might be different.
True.
So I think it's like more of a recent thing that you end up in positions like if you got a full-time job at a big agency somewhere as a photographer, if you had the right leader, that leader would let you run with your creativity and kind of just give you a little bit parameters, obviously, and then I think you could still get that fulfillment, but that's pretty rare.
Right, and because I kind of struggle with that with the kids, or not kids, but people that want to help out, and like, am I leaving enough, freedom to them to express themselves the way they want to, and still feel part of it, or am I getting too involved and pushing them away because they're not able to do things the way they want to? Because for me, I feel like I'm always pushing, like, okay, next thing, and I feel like I push people away because it's like, no, Chino, we want to do this, or
try this or that,
or
and you're just, we don't have time for that or whatever. Like, I mean, well, that's also, I think, the benefit of a good leader is the experience. You know, like, you've done this a long time and you understand how to, number one, get things done, and you understand, number two, what the clients expect. You know, especially at a wedding, you don't have time to really like mess around too much. You know, you like have to make sure you're capturing those moments. You know? So I definitely agree. I'm in the same boat. And there's sometimes, I actually just had a conversation with one of my guys where I had to apologize to him for like, I just kind of like barreling over him and like, no, we're not doing it that way, and moving on. And I caught myself in it, and I was like, why did I do that? I could have give him the extra 5 minutes to try what he wanted to try, you know?
Yeah.
So in the notes you sent me, you talked about basically this fear of success we can have because of the way other people would view that, or maybe it's something that we're not totally confident that we fully know, and we're kind of just putting it out there as if we do. I was just thinking about that because I mean, we do a podcast as well, and we're just talking about what we're learning when we're learning it.
Okay.
And sometimes that's probably not, like, I'm probably not right, or it's just my opinion that week, or, you know, like what I've, you know, dealt with in the work we're doing. But I think that's how we get where we need to be, right? So there's a lot of like sides to it where you could be doing something regularly and it looks like success on the outside, but really you're just saying like, I'm just trying to share my knowledge or share what I'm learning, and it could be totally wrong, and I'm open to constructive criticism.
Right. But
people don't really do that on social. Like, they're not going to just sit there and say, well, actually it's this. They're going to be like, well, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, and that's that constant fear. It's the same. I feel like it's the same fear when you put your work out and you're like, you know, I follow, or, you know, follow people that follow me are like really good at what they do. And I just posted this video that I don't think is that great, but it's part of the work that I've been doing. like there's just a lot of elements of worrying about what people might say or do or think. And, especially like we have a pretty good group of creatives that all used to work together. And I feel like every time I post something, I'm like, Chino's going to see this and be like, what is he doing? Like
I do. To everyone.
Everybody does it though. And I think that if you just kind of switch the mentality of worrying about that to really recognizing people's skill sets and gifts and talents, and you can kind of celebrate that. Like when I see things that you post, I'm like, Chino is so good at what he does. Like I get encouraged because I like when creatives post, or like Tim Moore, who we used to work with, posts. I mean, he's amazing at what he does, and he posts stuff, and Tony, and like all these guys that we were all connected through different ways in the past. And I think in the beginning when we all starting our business, there's kind of maybe more of a tension of like we're all trying to grow our businesses and like let's either work together or be competitors, And now I feel like I've come to a point where I've kind of adjusted my thinking to be like to celebrate everybody's successes, because there's no reason to worry about what you're thinking or you worry about what I'm thinking. Like I want, my whole goal in starting my company was to help creatives do what they want to do. Like that was the thing. Like I've never claimed to be like a specialized DP. Like we were talking about earlier, like I feel like I'm just kind of efficient at a lot of things, and I'm not like, this isn't my path and this isn't my path. It's just like, let's just do this.
Yeah. And I think people who see themselves that like, oh, I don't have much to offer, whatever you are offering is needed. It's little or if it's a lot, posting it out there or being part of a group and helping out in whichever ways you can. It's always helpful. Yeah. Just being around. Some people have even the ability to be just on set to inspire you. Like say someone that I kind of respect in a different creative field is around when I'm shooting or something. I feel like, okay, well, that person inspires me to do it a little bit better. Like even with seeing people post stuff on social media, it's inspiring me to do things better. But I also have to guard my brain and my heart to kind of be, okay, make sure I'm doing it I'm getting inspiration and not this feeling of like, I need to show them, prove it to them that I can do, yeah.
Yeah, and you can't always do that because it might, whatever like you're shooting or if it's a job that you're hired for is limited to what you are supposed to do usually, and a lot of clients are like I want it this way. And that's what I deal with a lot. It was like, I have all these ideas and then the client's like, this is exactly what I want to the T, don't change a thing.
Right.
And you're like, well, that's not my creative.
Right. That's how I feel when my kids are getting ready in the morning. And I just want you to put, your pants and shirt and shoes and socks on. Yeah. And they get too creative with it. And they're like, well, I could play around a little bit with this and I could sit here and think. And like, nope, just do. So I kind of feel.
They're your kids though. Yeah, no, it's true. But I think that's also a form of leadership. Like you said, someone else in the room, they're actually leading your moment, right? Like the thought and the process. And I think that as someone that could be in the room, or like if you were on set with me, it'd be the same thing where I would be thinking, okay, what can I do to make sure that like things are, I don't know, lit well or framed well or whatever. There's like a certain sense of motivation, I guess. Yeah. And like I feel like I'd be like, Chino, what should we do here?
Yeah, and I love that when it's like,
it's like that collaborative thing. Yeah. But in that moment, it's you're the leader. You know what I mean? Like in my mind. So like we might be on set together. I might be the director, and you might be the DP, and like I would defer to you.
Right.
So there's like a two-way leadership thing. It's just like saying, Chino, what do you think we should do here? Let's do it. Yeah. But in that way, in that sense, you're motivating me.
Right.
But then I'm also trying to open the door and say, hey, Chino, here you go. Here, take the reins. You know what I mean? Like,
well, the way I would see it, it would be like, oh, I can throw this on him, and and it's almost like a if you forget anything, or because you're always like, when you're working on something, you're always kind of panicking. It's like, oh, did I do everything right? Because you want to be creative, but you also have to be technically right. And when those people come in and say those, and then what I like is if Crystal or somebody's on there, hey, can you make sure that's fine? Yeah. And I'm almost like throwing it on them, just to make sure like I got it all right, so that I can get like a tiny little break in my mind, and have the reassurance that everything is good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good.
Which I think is another aspect of a good leader, is understanding how to delegate. And that's really hard, is delegating responsibility, even to people you think might not be fully equipped to do it. It's just like, you know, I do that a lot. We bring on new people all the time that don't have a lot of experience. You know, like everybody deals with low budgets, right? So you're just like, I'm just gonna grab this guy, and they've never done it, but I'm gonna have to teach them as we go. And it's like, hey, go grab that C-stand, throw a light on it. And like, you see them doing everything wrong, right? And then you just have to take the time to be like, okay, the knuckle goes on the right side, and the light goes on like this, or whatever it is. The sandbag goes on this leg, or, you know, whatever. But it's one of those things where you're just, you know, you have to allow it to happen. Otherwise, you stifle your own creativity, and whatever project you're working on suffers because of it, right?
Yeah. And all that process, in the end, it's fun. Yeah. For me, I think it's always fun. Even like, oh man, you know, this person was there and they didn't know what to do, but like, in the end, it's like, but it was fun. It was great. It was like, and the end result is that person learned something, and next time now they know, and you just keep growing, and the growth is really great. Yeah, yeah. So with that, when you hear us talk, now you know we don't think we know everything, and we're not here to kind of teach the world how things should be done, but kind of telling everyone that we're still figuring it out as we go along, and this is how we've progressed, and you know, we love people working together and still building that creative community. Yeah, I love it. Awesome. Thanks. Okay, stare at Was that good?
It was great. Was it valuable?
I thought it was pretty valuable.
Good.
Well, that part you said about delegating.
Me or him? Dang it.
It's hard. Yeah. It's hard to do because, I don't know. I mean, when we were working together in the production company we were at, a lot of stuff just kind of fell on us. Like, we'd be the first ones there, the last ones to leave.
You should keep this rolling. Yeah.
But it was, I think you just get in the habit of getting it done because the bosses said get it done. And then when I started doing stuff on my own, I would just do everything. And I just